everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Help for HDTV. Today we have HDYO on with us. We have Jenna and Kelly on, and they are going to talk about their Congress that they just had in Scotland, as well as some new projects that are coming out. I am going to let Jenna start the conversation with talking to us about Congress.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna Heilman, Executive Director, and thanks so much, Katie and Katrina and the team at Help for HD for inviting us. We just got done with Congress a couple of weeks ago. It was held March 17th through the 19th in Glasgow, Scotland. And I don't know, Kelly, it was just amazing. This was the first time that we've ever gathered in person with an international event like this. We were originally planned in May of 2020. As we all know, the world exploded at that time and everything had to change. And we've done 2 virtual since then, but this was the first time to get together. And we were able to bring our scholarship recipients who were still interested in attending back, who originally were awarded the 2020 scholarship. And then we awarded additional scholarship because of the amazing partnerships and support that we got from several partners and sponsors. But we had over 100 scholarship recipients attend to help just from HDYO. And then we had other partnering associations who sent dozens on their own on top of that. So overall, we had 337 people register and participate in Congress, which is phenomenal considering the fact that it's international. People had to take time off of work. The world is very much a different place than what it was in 2020. And it was just a great time for many of these people to come to their first HD event, many of them traveling by themselves for the first time out of the country, and to be in a room where you don't have to explain what HD is. And we saw the whole spectrum of emotions, and people were processing so much, which we know is important, but they kept coming back because it was the right emotions at the right time, and they really felt supported and safe. And we managed to have some fun on top of it. And it just was a really fantastic way to bring the community together. And I think a good jump start to this first time we're hosting it, and just bigger and better next time. Kelly, your thoughts on it too?
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary, Jenna, and credit to Jenna for organizing such an incredible event. I was so lucky to be a part of it and to be there. And as Jenna said, being able to see people connect with one another, share emotions with one another in this really safe, welcoming place was professionally and personally one of the most important things I've ever been a part of. So yeah, it was just terrific.
We saw a lot on social media of people posting, but maybe tell us a little bit about how the days went.
So we knew that this was going to be the first time many of them had ever traveled, let alone they were by themselves. And we wanted to spend the first day really to have get to know you sessions, because we wanted them to have buddies throughout the weekend. We've all been to professional conferences when you maybe talk to 1 or 2 people, and maybe at the end you're like, hey, I think we could be friends, let's hang out. But then the conference is done. We didn't want that to happen. So we got started with our welcome session. Charles Sabine came in and gave a great inspirational speech to set the tone. And then we broke out into different sessions that had to do with how people self-identify within the HD community, then broken out by regions, and then relationships to HD. So it was great because then you got this round robin getting to know you sessions of things that were grouped by similar things and relationships, but then the conversations were a little bit more fun and not associated with Huntington's disease to start off with. And then the civic welcome was tremendous. We went down to the city chambers, which is a beautiful building. We got a formalized welcome from the city leadership in Glasgow, and Ashley Clark, who is the creator of the hashtag I'm Not Drunk lifestyle blog. She's also an HDYO board member, and she leads our ambassador program, gave a very heartwarming speech and welcome to the whole group to round it off. And then it was St. Patrick's Day, so everybody went and had a little too much fun, but that was good, so they could be on their own a little bit. And then the next day, we started off celebrating Enroll HD's 10 years of impact. And then we broke off into a series of different concurrent sessions where people could choose what they were most interested in. There are a lot of personal perspectives that many of our ambassadors helped serve as panelists and lead these sessions, from survivor's guilt to participating in research and what their perspective is with that, the power of social media, how to get involved with the community. We then had different scientific updates where we really dove into the science of clinical trials. We didn't necessarily talk about the trials, but we talked about the rationale behind what the science has to say, which I think is a really good investment in the community. It's not just what trials can I participate in, but what's the philosophy behind the science and how can I get more educated with that? And then a lot of mental health and coping skills were offered throughout the day. And so we had a series of group sessions where we got together for larger sessions and then breakout sessions. And then we also had an evening party that evening that Enroll HD helped put on, Celebrate for 10 years, where we went down to this really amazing event space and had dinner and dancing and just got a little loose with it and had some fun after a very long day. And then Sunday, we wrapped out with some more with a research breakdown from HD Buzz, and then some more sessions, and then with our awards and farewell. So we allowed people to travel home on that Sunday. And throughout it all, we had a fantastic team of mental health professionals who were there to chat with people. They could schedule appointments, or we had people who could do appointments, and we had people in the crowd mixing in, so then they could help serve if they saw that people were having a hard time or needed to chat, and then a chill space for people to take a break, do some coloring, do some writing exercises. And then we also did, which this will be great, especially once we see the recordings, because we are going to be posting those sessions online for anybody to see, so anybody can view all of them. We did have a specific afternoon group of sessions for people impacted by juvenile onset HD. So we talked about the basics of JOHD, the family impact with one of our ambassadors, opportunities, and then managing the different transitions that those families encounter. So really, I think was a really well-bounded, rounded, if I can speak, rounded group of sessions that were really led by what we're hearing from the community of what they needed. And I think it'll evolve as things progress for next year's or the next time's events.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
a really good point, Jenna, in terms of we got lots of really great feedback on the event, but we also got some really constructive feedback as well, which will be so useful for when we do this again and to make it bigger and better. So overall, it was a really important event to have had this year, but also I think we've learned some really awesome lessons that will be useful next time.
Definitely. Like, I think we've learned with some of our events as well that like those feedback, like those exit surveys or those comments, that we really take them into consideration. I think that's super important that you guys are making that a good focal point moving forward. We can all learn from the community, right? Like just things that they can also gain from.
I think with that feedback, also people's need changes based off of what's going on. And we know that there's always a need, for example, for kind of the basics of what is Huntington's disease, because you have newer people to the community. But does that need to be the biggest conversation? Probably not, because people who go there already know that. So your first time you may think that, and then you evolve from that. And so it's important to understand, okay, what does the community feel like they have a grasp on? What are some good touch points? And then what's new that you can bring in that maybe they haven't seen at other events to help fulfill those needs? And that's where the HDYO ambassadors, I can't talk enough about how great this group of, I always call them kids because they're younger than me, but they're not kids, they're young adults. But their opinions really helped formulate what sessions we've targeted. They had the opportunity to speak and really take a big leadership role in a lot of the content. And I think that's what's so important, is that this was really driven by what we're hearing from the community through those ambassadors.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many exit surveys. At one point, we're doing 6 events a year. Is HD 101, they were like, no more HD 101. We live this every day. We could write this book. And they're learning from people that they're like, that's not even, we helped you guys learn what you're teaching us. So I think that HD 101 is, I'm glad that I think that's one thing Hype did, was it made us have industry and pharmaceutical companies, when we were writing these LOAs, really understand that this is not the education that's beneficial. What's beneficial is real life scenarios and working through different crises, and having to HD 101, we can incorporate some of that in different type of learning, but it shouldn't be the only learning, because we are going to lose retention and people aren't going to come to our events if we keep doing that.
Yeah, and that's what we thought too. Someone on our planning committee was like, "Oh, that should be a keynote," and I'm like, "No, we're good." Like, people already they could teach this exactly to your point. I think it's important to have, especially we had some. What was really great is the support from the scientific community. The Hereditary Disease Foundation offered 3 scholarships for some of their new fellows to attend, so they got to come and really get embraced in the community and emerged in many different stories. And I feel like especially with scientific conferences, they bring in some advocates, which is great. But with HD, there are so many other stories, and you get one or two experiences, but you don't really get thrown in to so many different stories and journeys like you would in these family-based conferences, like you all do too. And it's so important for them to really understand the many differences, the different relationships, because then it helps inspire them further with research. And for the first time, I really saw advocates challenging scientists one-on-one and in sessions, which was amazing to really create these people who can advocate for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know, coming off an amazing event and you're so hyped and excited and you're full of all these ideas, and you get home and you have a letdown. I swear the letdown is always the worst. You go to bed for 2 weeks and you process what you did, but then it's always what's next, right? So what is next? What did you guys come back and have, like, you've slept? Have decided what's next? What's coming up?
We've been busy. I think one of the things that we did last year that has really set up this year and future years is that we sat down and did a 5-year strategy. So yes, the main focus was Congress this first quarter and even into last year, but we had so many different moving parts that were going that there's the letdown of not getting to be with people, because it was so fun to hug people and actually meet people in 3 dimensions. But now we're really focusing on some key areas. One of those, and I'll let Kelly talk a little bit more about this, is we realized that there were some gaps, especially in the HDYO community internationally, about really understanding how young people utilize resources. And this came with one thought, and now it's expanded to this whole series of surveys. And we were so thrilled that we did a soft launch during Congress, but we have now officially launched a survey series with our first survey that really striving to understand different components of the entire global community, which is really exciting.
So Kelly, go ahead and bring us into what is that all about?
Yeah, sure. As Jenna has highlighted, it's essentially a series of surveys that we hope will help us better understand what young people need, what supports they would like, how they want to access those supports. So that's the aim of our first survey that we've just launched. And then we'll move into, as the year progresses, a different series of the surveys, and try to get a sense of, what kinds of, as we said, supports that people might need, but also we're looking at things like barriers to participating in research, what people might want from researchers as well, and in terms of feedback from research, some of the social stigmas that people face. And then our very last one that we're still working on at the moment is trying to understand the challenges that people face across the lifespan. So we know that there are experiences, challenges, or different life stages that are quite difficult. And then we overlay HD on that, and we know that there are very specific or unique challenges that people who are affected by HD will experience. And so we want to understand when those events might occur, what they are, and then what kinds of specific supports would be useful at that life stage. And so that's what our last series is aiming to do. We've got a fair few surveys in the works, and it's really exciting to be able to actually have this feedback from the community, to have this formalized. It's a formalized survey. It's undergone ethics review with a research institution. And that's really important too, because we get a lot of anecdotal feedback from people about the supports that they would like or what they want from researchers. But formalizing it means that we're able to collate it properly and then be able to sort of put it out into the community as this formal and document or official piece of information that's really backed by evidence. So that gives some legitimacy as well to the kinds of work that we do, that we can actually say, this is why what we do is important, and this is the evidence that supports that statement. It's really, really important that we have that evidence base, and it's really exciting to see it coming together.
And it's so important to, when you're talking about the global resources, right? Being from the United States and not ever being to Europe or Australia. I have no idea what's offered there. I have no clue. And it's so out of mind that I'm like, why don't you just do X, Y, and Z in my head? And then I'm like, wait a minute, where are you from? In the different groups, or when people reach out, you kind of like, you don't realize what is or isn't available, and how some places have really good healthcare systems and other places don't. And how to make things more accessible around the globe is a really great goal.
I think too,
Exciting
Katrina,
to
that
see.
still, even in the US, there are deserts, and then there are families who are so entrenched in social stigma that people are impacted and just don't even know where to turn. And for those who can share their stories to help others. And I think that this is going to be so important with the community, because it's not something that HDYO is going to hold on to. We're going to be sharing this information with all of our partners to say, this is what we found out. So then that way, when you think about other diseases, the impact happens on a much quicker scale usually than Huntington's disease, because the impact of the onset of symptoms and the actual visible quality of the disease takes decades. And so depending on when the awareness and understanding of Huntington's disease impact on your family and then potential impact on yourself, that can take over such a long lifespan. And while this is happening, life is happening. So how can we better understand, when do we need to be more outright in reaching out, knowing what part of the journey you're in? When do we need to take a step back because you typically are inundated, like during genetic testing time and things like that? You may have too many resources. So do we need to take a step back? I think that these are important things to hear from the community, because then we can really have some interventional services to really even press on community members to say, we know that you may be going through this. Have you considered seeking out this support, or can we be there to support? And I think that's going to be so crucial to better understand.
This is all really exciting stuff that we got to learn about today and from HDYO, and congratulations on an amazing Congress to both of you and your whole team. And we know how much work goes into these. And so congratulations. Before we get off here, any final thoughts for us?
I think just thanks so much for letting us be here and the support. I think it's always important to understand that all of our associations work really well together. And it's just great to be able to share that with everybody, because none of us are going to do this alone, and we can't do this alone. So thank you so much for Help for HD for having us. All of this information is available at HDYO.org. So you can find the survey series. We're on social media like crazies. Please check us out. I know everybody's asking about when's the next in-person event. We're planning on bringing a camp back next year in 2024, and then doing Congress the following year. So every other year we'll either be doing a camp or a Congress. And as we get back into the swing of doing in-person events post-pandemic, stay tuned for more information. It's an exciting time, but we're just going to keep moving ahead. And we really appreciate this opportunity to share what's going on.
Fantastic. We will all be watching close for all those dates for that event next year to release, and all that you guys are doing. Make sure you guys follow HDYO, follow all of the organizations on social media and their websites and everything, because we are all offering different programs at different times and different supports. So make sure you follow everything to really be able to utilize what's out there for you. We create this for our community. I know back when my HD journey started as an HD family member, I had such a hard time finding anything. And now, a decade and a half later, there's so much out there from families realizing there wasn't a lot, and us working hard to put things together. Make sure to utilize all that stuff that's available to you. Real quick before we get off here, because I want to say this is actually, we recorded this a week prior to when it's going to air. Help for HD just launched our HD awareness program. We did that because we want your stuff to come in by May. And we put it out this morning, and within an hour, everything is gone. I think that's so important to make sure that you guys follow Help for HD and get your email on because with the second the email blast went out first, all the stuff was gone. Hundreds of families started within just an hour. Make sure you follow, because you never know when we're going to release more stuff. We are thankful for everyone that has put into the portal and is going to work with us on a very strong HD awareness month next month. So I think that'll do it for today. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel below and ring the bell for notifications when more videos like this come out. Till next time.